All right, here we are. Growth as object. Thank you all for being here. And this is a topic near and dear to my heart. So I'm so excited to figure out what we're going to figure out together. This is an exploration and an exploratory session together. So there will be breakout rooms. The plan is three of them. But yeah, I'm going to introduce this and say why this matters to me and what's so important about it as well to get us going. Growth as object is a reference to a thing called the subject to object shift. And that is in adult development terms, ego development term language. And what it describes to me is the very core mechanism of growth itself, of personal inner growth. And I'm gonna use the terms inner development and growth and maybe even transformation more or less interchangeably in this session, and all of them point to this core mechanism of growth, of development, of really to me it's a perspective taking process where we go from being on the inside of and unaware of something to becoming aware of it to shifting, moving our relation to it from the inside to the outside. We go from the subject part means being subject to. We're on the inside of something and subject to its whims. We are tossed about by it. To having it or taking it, making it into or as an object in our awareness. And my sense of objectness is that we can hold it in our hands. We have it rather than it has us. And when we have it, then we can rotate it, we can look at it from different angles, we can play with it, we could juggle it. And that's kind of the sense of what I mean by outside or objectness. So today, when I say now growth as object, there's this kind of meta level loopiness to it that we're going to take um, the growth pattern, the growth process itself, and try to make it object in our awareness. So I could say that we're going to take perspective on our perspective taking, or maybe the phrase awareness of awareness, or I might even say growing your growing. Although that one's a little less grammatical and a little harder to, but we're gonna turn this thing on itself and see what happens with that. Now, to express first, like what does inner development mean to me and why is it important in the first place? The reason that it is so meaningful to me and why I'm here today trying to express something and explore and communicate something with you all is that the process of inner development, the seeing that entails, that seeing is freeing. To borrow a phrase from Rob Burbea wrote a book, Seeing That Frees, but seeing is freeing in that sense. Freed from what? We can be freed from tiny cages of our own construction, mentally, psychologically. We can be freed from limits that we think are real. We don't know that they are fake or constructed limits in some sense, or free from limits that we don't even see. We don't even see as limitations. We just think that's the way that the world is and that it works. We don't even know that they're a thing or to question them. But inner development creates, for me, more space and spaciousness, and it lessens the constriction or the clinging in my experience and in my life. And you talk about, clinging, and of course, that is like less suffering. perhaps kind of in the Buddhist language of clinging and suffering and attachment there. But I'm going to lean on space and spaciousness as my primary metaphors and my language around this, just because it's what makes sense to me. And I don't know of any better language to kind of describe this inner space and spaciousness. So I'll adopt the physical language. But what it means to me, the effect in my life is less suffering and more joy, less threat mode and more play mode, less contortion and more authenticity. I'd say bigger self, smaller ego, more love and positive fuel, and less fear-driven defensiveness fuel. Being more of who and how we want to be and less of all the other noise and hijacking and compensating and just all that other stuff. So I come back to being who I want to be and being how I want to be. And that is what makes the difference in my life. And that is what I want to share with y'all. And y'all are probably here because you share it already. I hope that we can share it all with others as well. Because I think this is what the world needs when we look at our big challenges, existentially, and risks and challenges at the scale of humanity. I think this is the kind of capability that we need as humans in order to rise to the challenges as humanity that we're facing. And we also find so much meaning and support in relationships and in communion and in development in relationships. And there's a key feedback loop there as well. So I want to mention the world and the we space, but today we're going to zoom in and we're going to focus on personal inner development. So we're going to prepare for our first breakout room here in a few minutes. And what we're going to inquire of and with ourselves are what have we already experienced? When I say growth or inner development, I'm not meaning actually to point to something that is some esoteric, way out there, rare thing that, very few people have experienced. We have all experienced this in our life and in our growth, even from childhood. And as we grew into teenagers and into adults, these are the motions and these are the experiences that we have had just in our regular normal development. And so it's kind of in one sense the point of adult development, just to point at that phenomenon and say, hey, that thing doesn't stop for us. It keeps going our whole life, and we keep growing and we keep developing and expanding in that way. But so transformational growth, these are the times in your life that it wasn't just about, learning new knowledge that you put in your collection of facts. These are shifts, these are moments for us that shifted the way that you saw yourself, or the way that you saw others, or saw the world around you. Transformation is when something unlocks in you or for you, and it shifts and it kind of like never goes back to the way that it was previously. Something is unlocked and you're seeing in a new way. A new capability is coming online in your system. Um, Aletheia coaching refers to the word unfoldment or unfolding. And I kind of like that metaphor as well of, oh, something was folded over or, crumpled up or shrunken and something expands, unfolds. Think of a flower unfurling its petals. That's my gesture at what is the sensation of transformational growth. So we are going to go into some breakout rooms and share 1-minute stories that are pivotal moments of perspectival growth in your life. And I see one about the walls of the mental prison fell down, the chains broken, filled with life energy. I love the spirit of that description there. Yeah. I shared a little story in mine about going from or knowing some folks, the founders of the small company that I worked at, and when the company was larger and people came in and did hero worship kind of stuff, I was like, wait, but they're just people. They're just normal people. Don't you like, why are you doing this hero worship kind of thing? And then the light bulb went on for me of like, oh, wait, that's true for everybody. Everybody's just some dude or just some gal, just some person. And that was a kind of a yeah frame that dropped away for me, and kind of never looked at, I don't know, the president of the country in the same way again after that. Realizing, oh, well, that's just some person too. Uh, so yeah, all sorts of transformational moments. Lots of different kinds, lots of different times. I heard a bunch of recent ones. They could also be early. How many of us have some sort of experience of there being a moment where we realized that our parents were not infallible and, we're imperfect beings, and that dawning upon us? Yeah, that is, a common kind of transformational experience. Maybe noticing that our just our extended family or our religion or the culture that we grew up in initially might not have exclusive lock on ultimate truth, or there might be some things in there that we want to question. Whew. Yeah, something in there. um, Process of, as we become adults, starting to differentiate our own values and claiming the things that we value and we decide are standing up for ourselves. Um, and yeah, moving from moving from also an orientation around achievement of what we can accomplish and building our primary meaning making out of that. Some of us have had the experience of stepping off of a ladder or getting off of a treadmill. That is a common meaning making frame of getting promoted up the ladder, or what we can accomplish, and letting go of that story and finding a new story of meaning making. Right. Uh, all of these or more, thanks, are so many examples of what growth is and what transformation is and how we've experienced it in our lives. We've been exploring this in intentional society for past almost 3.5 years, and uh, delving, maybe that word is associated with AI now, diving into our stories of growth and transformation. I'm going to put up on one on the screen here a picture of how do we see growth happening as a pattern. And if you've been around intentional society for any length of time, you will probably have heard me say awareness, acceptance, integrity. Awareness, acceptance, integrity. And I've put up on the left side as well some verbs to go with the nouns. These really all point at the same things heading across here. There's just the action form. Noticing brings us to a state of awareness of the thing that we have noticed. Um, but then that first stage and or state then brings us to a place of, okay, what do we want to do with the thing that we have noticed? And the move of growth, I'll call the verb welcoming. Welcoming brings us into a state of acceptance or being with the thing that we have noticed. Because so often our first reaction is resistance, or flinching, or turning away, or fear, or armoring up in some way, defending ourselves against the problem or the stress or the just whatever it is that came into our awareness in the first place. Sometimes we're not good at noticing anything until it like, smacks us in the face with some sort of problem that, okay, now we have to deal with it. And how do we want to deal with it? But it is um, the not the welcome. It's the welcoming and the acceptance that allows us to make object of the thing we've noticed, to be able to play with it. If we go into resistance, there's kind of this finger trap effect of the harder we pull, the more stuck we get. And counterintuitively, it's kind of like the, oh, push into it. That's the thing that loosens us up and loosens up our ability to relate to the challenge, the problem, the whatever it is that we've noticed. And then I keep swapping out words for this third verb here. This cohering. I could easily go for flowing or intending or unfolding. There's not one precise right word to F the ineffable here of what this is pointing at, but it's lining up with a coherence and a wholeness and ultimately an integrity. That paints the picture of us in integrity with ourselves in all of our layers, kind of mind, heart, body, as well as inner values and outer behavior, all of those things coexisting and being in harmony with each other and in that state of integrity, which if we can get there in relationship to whatever it is, the thing that we're noticing, or the frame that we're dropping, or the story that we're letting go of, or coming into a new story, then great. Then we're feeling good, we're operating in integrity, and that lasts up until something else shifts. And we find ourselves starting the cycle again of, oh, something has gone wrong, something is different, at least, and what am I noticing? And starting the cycle again of how do we relate to and how do we grow through that? Noticing takes something off of the wall or off of the firmament of the heavens above us, brings it down next to us. Welcoming lets it be there, just be as it is in reality, and gives us the space, the spaciousness, and the freedom to choose how we want to cohere or align ourselves in relationship to it and how we want to flow out with that in integrity. So there's the very short version of the intentional society growth model. And that is something we just noticed ourselves over a few years of doing many practices and many different practices. And Um, it seems like many of our transformational growth and inner development experiences line up to this kind of three-step model here that we've found. What I'm going to invite us into next is another round of breakouts. And the question to seed for your breakout room is going to be the same people this time is how do your experiences of growth align with this model? Or how do they differ? If that's a more interesting angle. But maybe you take some of the same stories that you already shared once, or maybe you grab a different story. That is all fine, but we're going to explore this together. And I'll put 15 minutes on the clock this time. Welcome back once again. Um, everybody coming back from the breakout rooms. All right. What I'm going to do here, rather than another text sharing round, is I'm just going to do kind of a quick resonance check, which, with the model, with seeing that growth has a pattern, really, ultimately, even if it's maybe not precisely, if you would pick slightly different words or you would structure your model a little bit differently, but seeing the model, seeing the pattern of growth I want to do a height hand check for resonance, where if you are like, yes, I am so on board with this, and I see that, that there's a pattern to growth, put your hand, like up near the top of your camera screen. And if you're like, nah, this is like, I'm not vibing with any of this, like put your hand down at the bottom of your screen. And let's just have everybody just sort of throw a hand up there with some amount of like, what is your resonance with, hey, there's a pattern to growth and I'm seeing something about it. Okay. All right. Cool. I see a lot of high hands. I see a few low hands. Cool. Also welcome as well and all over the place. Okay. Cool, cool. I'm excited for the discussions and that have happened and will be happening as well. Hmm. For the last part of this session, the question for us will be, what does it matter that there might be a pattern? Or if we think we see a pattern or a model of growth that we maybe can recognize in our growth in the past that might apply to our growth in the future, what does that matter? And what does that do for us? What might we do with this? Now, from the earlier description, it mentioned a visualization. I've cut the visualization last night. I cut the visualization out of out of the session. I've replaced it with a poem. I want to read to you a poem that I think gets this across better than anything else that I could do or write. It's titled "There's a Hole in My Sidewalk: The Romance of Self-Discovery" by Portia Nelson. And this poem is also meaningful to me because it was read to me by Jennifer Garvey Berger, a noted figure in the adult development space, who used this to introduce the first class that I ever took on some of the adult development models there. So here it is. Autobiography in 5 short chapters. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. Um, there's the punchline. And at the risk of detracting from the poem by commenting on it, I'll say that the awareness that we are on a street and walking down a particular street, and the option of walking down a different street, even more than the battle with the hole itself in the current street, is something that I want to point to us now in our last bit of time is just one more breakout session. Same folks again. And the question to you this time is, what might you do with awareness of the pattern of growth? That's it. There's no right or wrong answer. Whatever chapter of that poem you might identify with. But what might you do with awareness of the pattern of growth? So, welcome back, everyone. I'm going to wrap up the recording here for just a minute, and then, have open time for us to chat and discuss. The, shape of the query is something like, what do you intend to notice, welcome, or cohere in your future experiences? What came out of your discussion? How do you want to hold this, use this, or what do you want to do with this? I just want to make a few notes though as we wrap this up on the recording. I want to say one is that hold all models lightly. All models are wrong, but some are useful. And that we have this three-word IS model here. It also is not the thing. It is a pointer to the thing. And let us not mistake the finger for the moon. Also, there is a way to approach growth and inner development that can be another kind of treadmill that we put ourselves on of like, oh, I need to grow faster. I need to go faster. I need to get through this more. I need to accelerate. And that can be integrity to throw yourself into the growth challenge of your current moment. And it can also be integrity to step back from that and say, ah, it is good for me to rest right now and not try to push myself or beat myself into just being better or doing more, doing harder. So I want to appreciate the sharing of these things in our breakout room and surface those as notes for ourselves. And yeah, I'm gonna thank everyone for being here, and I'm gonna turn off the recording. And